Do you feel like your guitar solos are a little boring, a little flat, right? You're playing in the right key, but you're not really saying much of anything. There's a few reasons, and I would like to go through all three of them, all three stages, really help you out with that last one, and show you some really cool rhythmic ideas that you can do right now to make your guitar solos pop. So much more. If you do not know, my name is Ryan Gahn. I've been helping guitar players for over 20 years, really bridge the gap between their creativity and what they're able to play, becoming fully fretboard fluent. If you would, please hit the subscribe and bell notification to get more videos on how to make your guitar solos better. When we're talking about these three phrases, or phases, I should say, of guitar soloing, we start over here. This is not a great one. This is where we remain for quite a long time, and that's where we're not saying anything. Sounds a lot like this. Right? Nothing rhythmically interesting, nothing pitch-wise that's interesting or catches our ear. So we need to change that, all right? And we need to go from not caring or understanding or communicating anything with what we're playing to communicating what it is that we're playing. The best way to do this is starting with the last note of every phrase, okay? So it sounds a little bit like this. Okay, now, I'm in the pentatonic. What I'm doing is I'm building a little bit of tension, all right? I need to create an emotional arc. We don't really care what the notes of a guitar solo are, right? We don't really care what lens a photographer uses, right? We don't really care what writing style a script writer for a play uses. We care about how it makes us feel. And that is the same with the way that we want to play our guitar solos. It matters what we feel, meaning we need to drive an emotional response, okay? The pentatonic, the minor pentatonic, is the best way to do this in the beginning. You have your 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. All right? You can just type in spelling of the minor pentatonic if you need a refresher. Now, the 1, the root note, is always going to feel nice and resolved, refreshed. We're down here at the bottom. And the flat 3 and the flat 7 are going to drive that up. That's my flat 3. I get that tension if I have this. Back down with the resolve, okay? Just doing that, playing a phrase that ends on a flat 3 or a flat 7 is going to drive that up, and then playing another phrase that ends on a root note is going to bring it back down. That's our emotional arc. It's a great place to start. Now, what gets a little bit interesting is moving from the last note of the phrase onward. So usually it almost sounds like if I were to linguistically do this, like blah, 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 you. Right? Like nothing that happened before the last word of that phrase means anything, right? And that's where we sort of get this. All right, that last note, that flat 3, that brings me some tension, right? Same. That brings my resolve. So when we're doing this and we're focusing on the last note of the phrase, we get what I just played there. And if you're speaking, right, and as we're playing phrases and as you're listening to your favorite guitar players, notes and rhythm are drifting in and out. Importance of words in a particular phrase are drifting in and out, right? If I take I, and I'm out of a sentence, those are not the most important words of the sentence. I'm having the meat of the phrase still there. That's what's happening here, right? If I do, okay, it's a tension. I'm ending on a tension, right? And you can hear it's like every note is equal because it's happening on strong beats, and I'm playing it the same way. You know, none of them are held out any longer or shorter. It doesn't sound like there's a significant note. The only reason the last note does is because there's nothing after it. Okay, the last note's important. Everything else is equally just as important or not so much. But that's not how we speak. And that's like this little phase 2 area, Where now it's like, oh, I'm paying attention to what I'm playing now. This is great. We get out of noodle, and now we're paying attention to everything that we're playing, which is fantastic. The problem is we're not giving the listener, we're not having like a conversation with the listener right now. We're just giving the major words out there, right? We want to be able to drift in and out. We don't have, not every word is as important. So we can start breaking this up a little bit. I'd like to do it in phrases first. Okay, so if I want to have a strong phrase, I almost think of this as lyrically in the blues. There's my tension and my resolve, right? A lick that ends on the flat 3, and then my resolve, a lick that ends on the root note. Awesome. But when you hear that would be like 2 lyrical phrases, a call and response. You'll hear singers do this. They're little. It's not as important as those other phrases. We can tell. We can very easily tell. Moving stuff out of the screen. So because of the emphasis. Just a little rundown of the scale. Played a little lighter, right? That's seeing it in phrase time. It's almost like lyric, and then like a singer would do like an O, and especially like a blues singer. The O, the syllable O, is not as important clearly as the lyric and the main motif, and that's what we're doing here. We're still stuck in up here, down here, up here, down here, as far as importance, right? We're doing it within a phrase. Each phrase is its own importance. What I want to show you is the last sort of way to do this is we do it in a phrase. And how we're going to do that is rhythm. And this is great because it opens up our rhythmic window as well. There's so many benefits to this particular exercise. So if I have, right, I'm just going up the pentatonic. 5/8 on the second string, 5/8 on the bottom E string. Cool. If I were to do just a simple run up. You can tell listening to that this is a little bit of a run-up, right? And that first note is actually the first note of the phrase. You're just giving a little bit more, right? We're dressing up that phrase a little bit. Cool. Now, if I take another lick, the response, right, I can do the same thing. I could go downward. Do the same idea at the end. This is still the end of the phrase. It's almost like a little trail off. Or I can attach it. This is still the end of the phrase. But that little trail off just adds a little bit more. Cool. I'm giving a larger rhythmic window, which is going to allow for quarter notes and eighth notes. That's where we get stuck. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? That's where it starts sounding boring. We certainly don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Half notes. Whole notes are going to sound way too boring. But if I can push this up a little bit, right, with some 16th notes, some legato stuff, right, push that speed up a little bit, that's going to allow not just the quarter notes and eighth notes to be a little bit easier to handle and not sound so redundant. We can even push down to half notes, dotted half notes, and whole notes because we have a larger rhythmic window, rather than just sitting in this really redundant quarter and eighth note. So that's one benefit. The other benefit is for the listener, really understanding what notes become more important within a phrase, and not just like every single note all just coming in at exactly the same intention, you know. So those are all of the those are all of the benefits to dressing up your phrases. It reminds me of, you know, if Whitney Houston was going to sing the national anthem, the rhythm is still there, the melody is still there, the intention is still there. It's just dressed up. We know what's important and we know what is dressed up, and it sounds nice. You know, I mean, even when Hendrix played the national anthem of Woodstock, right? Same idea. He didn't just sit there and play every single note exactly the same. He was adding his own spin on it. When you get good at leading that into a phrase or coming out of a phrase, what is really cool is you could do it in the middle of a phrase. You know, a slide up might be cool, right? A slide up and a hammer on. You're just adding those little faster runs without it taking away from what notes are the most important, you know? So give it a shot. I would love to know how this goes. This is where we go from no note is important to, all right, I really need to listen. So the last note becomes really important of the phrase. But the only reason the last note is important is because you're stopping on it. If you weren't stopping on it, it wouldn't be important, right? Because every note is the same. Because I'm not stopping, there's no important note there. But because I'm stopping, tension, resolve. You know what I mean? So now we're saying, okay, well, can I make this same idea moving within a phrase and not just have bop, 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 important, bop, 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 important, you know? Because if I have cool, that is still the most important. That note is more important. It's not the last note of the phrase. And it's certainly not the run up in the beginning. That middle note is the most important. It's held out the longest. I repeat it. I play it twice. And everything else is faster around it. So take some of these ideas. I would love to know how they go, how they work out for you, and sort of making your solos better for more than just one reason. You know, as we're adding these faster runs, it makes your solos better for multiple reasons. And if you do feel like you're stuck in that really boring, robotic guitar solo plateau that we all get into, and you really want to bridge the gap between your creative ideas and what you're able to play, becoming fully fretboard fluent, I have a couple of resources for you. There is a free training in the description. I would love for you to check that out. As well as an invitation to book a free call if you're ready to join our Fretboard Fluency Mentorship Program, where we go very much in depth into all of these concepts and you come out fully fretboard fluent and really being able to play the guitar solos that you're hearing in your head through your hands with absolutely no friction. Thank you for staying for the whole video, and I will see you in the next one.